Come closer, child. Tonight we step onto the muddied fields of history, not as kings or heroes, but as something far more common and far less fortunate. You are not the celebrated general or the cunning tactician. You are cannon fodder, a term that feels a little too literal, a little too cruel. But here you are, boots squelching into terrain that's more soup than soil, clutching a weapon you don't quite trust, and marching in rhythm with 1,000 other souls who, like you, probably won't survive this. The fog is heavy tonight, clinging to the damp air like sweat on a brow. The torchlight flickers through the mist, casting long, jittery shadows across the rutted path. You smell the smoke of morning fires, the iron tang of old blood, and the unmistakable funk of unwashed bodies. This is where you begin. Nameless, shirt half untucked, mud already claiming your ankles. If you're new here, gently press that like button. It tells the algorithm you enjoy slow, strange bedtime journeys like this one. And if you're the sort who likes wandering through forgotten stories in the dark, hit subscribe too. You're among friends. Oh, and in the comments, tell us your city and what time it is there. We like to know who's out there under the same sleepy sky. Turn down the lights, let the fan whisper softly in the background, and together, let's gently drift into tonight's adventure together. Your boots are already soaked, by the way. Not even 15 minutes into your first real march, and they're sloshing like soup bowls. It rained last night, again. And even though the weather is technically mild, this time of year, it turns out mild is just the local term for endless damp misery. The road you follow was once a trade path, used by merchants hauling fine spices and textiles, but now it's been trampled by too many feet and too many wheels. You squint ahead and see nothing but the backs of other soldiers, some slouching, some limping, one who might actually be sleepwalking. You wonder if you're the only one noticing the slow, bone-deep ache settling into your calves. You're not. But no one talks. There's no singing, no heroic drumbeat. Just feet. And mud, and the soft, rhythmic curses of the guy 2 rows ahead of you, whose left boot gave up trying to be a boot hours ago. This is not a dramatic charge into battle. This is not glory. This is the bureaucratic side of war logistics. You're part of a column that stretches for what feels like miles, slowly winding through nameless valleys and half-abandoned hamlets, each more grey and soggy than the last. Your weapon, a pike, swings awkwardly on your shoulder, and you already hate it. It's too long to be useful and too short to feel safe. But it's yours now. So is the lice. The first town you pass doesn't even have a name anymore. It was something once. Probably pleasant. The old sign hangs crooked on one hinge, the letters weathered away by wind and rain. What's left of the population peeks out from doorways, not with curiosity, but with the exhausted suspicion of people who've seen too many columns like yours come and go, leaving only footprints and funerals behind. A woman clutches a child against her hip, and her eyes lock with yours for a fraction of a second. Not hatred, not hope, just a quiet sort of resignation. She knows where you're going. She knows what you'll become. You walk past her, and she disappears back inside without a word. You march until the sun disappears, not because you reached a destination. There isn't one really, but because someone at the front finally decided to stop. You drop to the wet ground like a sack of wheat and immediately regret it. Your back aches. Your legs tremble. You're given a crust of something that once dreamed of being bread and a strip of salted meat so dry it crunches. You eat it anyway. The men around you are all versions of yourself. Young, middle-aged, older. None rich. Some have faces too smooth for this life. Others already look carved from stone. One man beside you says nothing, just stares at the fire, his fingers twitching in his lap. Another talks too much. About home, about pigs, about a girl named Marta who probably married someone else by now. You nod occasionally, but your mind wanders. Later, under a sheet of borrowed sky, you try to sleep. The ground is unforgiving. Your blanket is thin and already damp. Someone nearby snores like a dying bear. Someone else weeps quietly, maybe for his mother, or for the farm he'll never see again. It's hard to tell in the dark. You dream of dry socks, of bread that doesn't crack teeth, of silence without dread, but morning comes too quickly, as it always does in these places. A trumpet you now associate only with suffering calls you back to your feet. Your body groans in protest. You have slept, technically, though your joints disagree. You start walking again. The fog has lifted slightly, revealing hills that roll away into the horizon, dotted here and there with trees that have long since given up on thriving. They simply exist now, like you. At some point, a man from your unit, whose name you haven't bothered to learn, collapses. Not dramatically. He simply folds, like parchment. One moment he's there, and the next, he's just not. A few men pause. One nudges him with his boot. No one says anything. Eventually, someone drags him off the road. He's not dead. Not yet. But he will be. You know it. Everyone says it. The march resumes. Eventually, a camp appears. More idea than infrastructure. Tents sag like tired shoulders. Fires cough smoke into the air. A commander whose name you do know, and resent, waves a hand without looking up from his wine and mutters something about setting perimeter. You do, not because you want to, because it's expected. You hammer in a stake with a stone, and your thumb throbs from a misstrike. Your blanket is still damp. Your stomach is still mostly empty. Your boots are now officially more swamp than leather. Still, you sit. You chew. You listen. Men swap stories in low voices. Most are lies, or dreams, or both. One man talks about home again. His daughter, this time. She's learning to walk, he says, just toddling around the room now. You don't ask how long it's been since he saw her. You don't have to. The war ages you faster than calendars. The night air is heavy with the scent of wood smoke and worry. You stare at the stars, but they don't offer comfort. They just watch. You shift your aching back. You count the days by the number of meals you can't remember having. You wonder what tomorrow will bring. More mud, most likely. More marching. Maybe arrows if the gods are feeling festive. And so you lie back, shivering slightly, as frost creeps along the edges of your blanket. A rat noses past your pack. You don't bother chasing it. You're too tired. And the trumpet will sound again soon. You wake to the sound of coughing. Not your own this time, someone else's. Wet, deep, rattling like an old cart with a wheel coming loose. It cuts through the morning like a knife through cold butter. You blink against the dawn. There's no sun, just a kind of pale suggestion of light filtered through the canvas flap of your tent. You don't feel rested. You never do. But your body moves anyway, compelled by habit, by duty, by the distant memory of what it means to keep going. Outside, the world is exactly as you left it. Damp, grey, unimpressed by your continued existence. You tighten the straps on your pack. They dig into your shoulders in the exact same spot as yesterday. That spot now has a bruise, or maybe a blister, or both. You pull your helmet from a stump where it spent the night gathering dew. It smells of metal, mildew, and something vaguely fungal. You shove it on your head, and it slides too far forward, obscuring one eye. It always does that. They didn't exactly size these things to fit. You shuffle toward the armory tent, though armory might be too grand a word. It's a sagging structure that smells like old wood and forgotten ambition. Inside, a quartermaster with half an eyebrow and a full attitude eyes you with all the warmth of a dying lantern. He hands you your gear with the usual level of enthusiasm. None. A breastplate with a dent the size of a cabbage in the center. Greaves that don't match. A chainmail shirt that hangs off you like wet laundry and clinks ominously whenever you breathe too hard. You strap it on anyway. No one expects you to survive long enough for a second set. A joke passes through the line. If the armor doesn't kill you, it'll at least slow you down enough so something else can. It gets a laugh. Not because it's funny, because it's true. You test the weight of your pike again. Still awful. Still heavier on one end. You consider trimming it, sharpening it differently, customizing it somehow. But that takes energy and tools, both of which you lack. So you hoist it over your shoulder like a tired farmer dragging a crooked hoe and head back to formation. As you join the others, you notice one poor soul with a helmet that looks more like a soup pot than military equipment. It wobbles as he walks. Another has a breastplate with a hole punched right through the middle, patched with what looks like tin and string. You don't ask questions. You all know the same silent truth. This gear wasn't made to protect you. It was made to give the illusion that someone tried. You begin marching again. This time it's uphill. Your thighs complain immediately, joined quickly by your lower back, your shoulders, and that strange spot behind your left knee that only starts hurting on inclines. The rhythm of your march becomes a chorus of complaints, armor chafing skin, boots squelching with water, weapons dragging against your leg with every step. You pass another village, smaller than the last. This one looks barely inhabited. A single dog watches you from a doorway, its ribs clearly visible beneath its fur. You nod at it. It doesn't nod back. The people are gone, or hiding. Hard to say which is worse. Around midday, someone near the front trips on a root and drops his shield with a clatter loud enough to startle birds from nearby trees. No one helps him. It's not cruelty. It's energy conservation. He mutters something about damn roots being in on it. No one laughs. Not this time. At a brief rest stop, you lower yourself to a fallen log and try not to scream from the pain shooting up your spine. You unlace one boot just enough to peek inside. Your foot is pale, wrinkled, and smells faintly of something between vinegar and despair. You lace it back up. There's no ointment, no dry socks, just more steps ahead. One of the officers walks by, riding a horse so clean it seems to be mocking you. His boots are polished. His coat is dry. He's chewing something that might be mint. You watch him pass without a word. He doesn't look at you. He hasn't learned your name. He never will. You notice your fellow soldiers looking too. Not with anger, with the dull gaze of people who remember what comfort used to feel like. At dusk, the company reaches a clearing and stops. The grass is too long, the soil too soft. It's a terrible place to camp, which is probably why they picked it. You help pitch a tent that promptly collapses twice, before standing crooked and resentful. You're too tired to care. You crawl inside and start unfastening your armor. This is the part you dread the most. The chest plate comes off with a wet pop. Your undershirt is soaked through and smells like a cheese merchant's nightmare. Your arms are red with pressure lines. The chainmail has left its usual grid pattern etched into your skin. It will fade by morning, just in time for you to earn a fresh one. Dinner is a small fire, a smaller pot, and something that was once a stew but now resembles beige glue. You eat it anyway. A bug lands in it. You eat that too. Someone tells a story about a man who wore his armor for 10 days straight and had to have it peeled off in layers. You want to think it's an exaggeration. You're not entirely sure it is. That night, you lie on a slight incline and slowly slide downhill in your sleep. You wake twice to adjust yourself, and once more because something large moved near your head. You don't look. If it bites, it bites. You dream of floating, not in water, in air. You're weightless, free, naked, but not ashamed. No armor, no boots, no pain. Then the trumpet calls again. Another morning, another ritual. You dress with the efficiency of someone who's done this too often. You stop feeling pain at some point, or you feel it constantly, and your brain just files it under normal. You can't tell anymore. The armor goes on, the pike goes up, the march resumes. Today, you pass a cart full of gear. Spare helmets, bent swords, broken bows. Each one once belonged to someone like you. Each one tells the same story. They marched, they fought, they fell. And now their equipment is being recycled. You eye one of the swords. It's better than your pike. You take it. The quartermaster doesn't notice, or doesn't care. Maybe both. It's heavier than you expected. You tuck it into your belt. You feel slightly more dangerous, slightly less doomed. The officers talk in hushed voices up ahead. You catch snippets, enemy patrols, ambushes, forest pass. You're headed into trees, dense ones. Not ideal. Visibility drops. So does morale. You hate trees now, not because they're trees, because they hide things. Arrows, snares, ice. Still you go, because that's the rule. As you step into the forest, branches snag your armor and damp leaves slap your face. The mud here is deeper somehow, more personal. You nearly lose a boot. You curse softly. Someone up ahead screams. You tense. Everyone does, but nothing follows. No arrows, no clash. Just silence. Then movement resumes. No one talks about it. You keep walking. Eventually, the path opens into a small glade. A fire burns low in the center, abandoned, still warm. Enemy scouts, bandits, locals. No one knows. You form a perimeter. You keep your pike close. Your eyes scan the trees. And for a moment, you feel like a real soldier. Then your stomach growls and a mosquito bites your neck, and the moment fades like morning mist. Night comes fast in the forest. Too fast. And sleep, once again, comes hard. But you lie down. You listen to the wind through the branches. You count the breaths of the man beside you, just to make sure he's still alive. You hear an owl. You hear something else. Something crunching just out of sight. But you stay still, because if it finds you, at least you'll be lying down already. You wake up colder than you were when you fell asleep. Somehow the earth beneath you has absorbed the warmth from your bones and kept it for itself. Selfish thing. You blink into the grey morning, and the trees above look no different than they did last night. It's almost impressive how nothing changes. Still damp. Still dim. Still entirely uninterested in your survival. A bug crawls out of your sleeve as you sit up. You don't scream. You barely even flinch. It's not the first. It won't be the last. Your skin has become public housing for woodland creatures, and they don't pay rent. There's no bugle this morning, just a grunt from a sergeant who looks like he hasn't blinked since the last full moon. He motions with a hand, and the unit begins to shuffle forward. No speeches. No breakfast. Just the routine stand, lift, march. The forest path twists and narrows, tree trunks looming like suspicious giants who want to charge a toll but have forgotten the words. You duck beneath low branches, feel bark scrape your armor, hear your own gear clanking in rhythms that would make a musician cry. Every few minutes, someone stumbles, swears, keeps going. One man near you mutters that he dreamed of swimming in a warm sea. Another replies, "Bet the sea had leeches." Your unit eventually reaches a road. Not a good one, just 2 ruts and a suggestion of gravel. Still, it feels luxurious. Your feet like the change. They almost forgive you. Almost. And then you hear the whistle. It starts as a high-pitched nothing, but instinct, or rather the centuries of dying men that came before you. Kicks in before thought does. You duck. The sound hits a second later, then the third. A nearby tree explodes into splinters, and suddenly you're reminded what you're for. Cannon fodder. Shouts follow, the kind of shouting that means scatter and duck and run all at once. You obey, though it's unclear which one you're doing. Your legs sprint sideways, your back hunches, your hands clutch your pike like it might do something heroic. It doesn't. Another explosion, closer this time. Earth showers your helmet. Your ears ring. Your mouth fills with dirt. You crawl behind a rock that wouldn't stop a sneeze and lie there, shaking. You're not alone. All around, the rest of your unit is similarly sprawled, hunched, pressed flat against tree trunks, or behind what little cover the gods of landscaping have granted. An officer somewhere shouts orders that no one hears. A man 10 paces away clutches his leg and groans, not in agony exactly, just in disbelief. Eventually, the noise stops, and silence feels more dangerous than the blasts. You lift your head. No one moves for a moment. Then slowly, as if emerging from underneath a collective spell, your fellow soldiers rise. Dust-covered, wide-eyed, bleeding at the edges. No enemy appears. Not yet. Just the memory of one. You push yourself up and realize your pike is broken. Snapped clean in half. The jagged end looks like it could still do something, but you know it's just theater now. You drop it and reach for the sword you picked up earlier. It feels heavier in your hand now. Real. Necessary. Your unit regroups behind a fallen tree that serves as an impromptu wall. A captain with blood on his sleeve. Someone else's, you think. Tells you you're going to flank. You nod like you understand. No one truly does. The forest ahead is darker. That's where you're going. You move as a group, feet silent now. You've learned, too many rustling boots bring arrows. You glide more than march. Low, hunched, cautious. The undergrowth is thick and wet, but your eyes are sharper now. Every leaf feels like a trap, every twig a signal flare. You pass a half-buried helmet, no one claims it. Then movement. Ahead, the flick of a figure. Shadow between trunks. The enemy, maybe, or another lost soul in the same costume as you. But training takes over. What little you've had. You raise your sword crouch, wait for the signal. It never comes. Instead, a whistle. A sharp one. Yours, theirs. Suddenly you're charging. It's not graceful. You don't leap like the paintings say. You stumble forward, crashing through brush, yelling something that probably sounded fierce but came out shrill. Your blade swings, meets air, then bark, then something softer. A man, young, eyes wide. He's wearing the wrong colors. You think maybe he's about to speak. Then someone behind you finishes the job, and he drops. You step over him. You don't remember the next few minutes. Just flashes, branches snapping, metal ringing, someone screaming about a knife. You see a hand reach for you, and you bat it away. You see a face twisted in rage, and you duck. Your sword feels like lead. Then it's over. Or quiet at least. You're standing in a clearing now. You don't remember getting here. Your legs ache. Your hands are sticky. You don't look too closely. Others trickle in around you, breathless, hollow-eyed. The captain mutters something about holding position. A man behind you is shaking so hard you think he might fall apart. A medic appears. He's not really a medic. Just the man with the cleanest hands and the least blood on his shirt. He looks you over, then moves on. Apparently, you're fine. You sit. Your sword lies across your knees. It's chipped now. There's something on the blade that isn't mud. You rub it with your sleeve and look away. Someone nearby throws up. You don't react. This is what it means to be cannon fodder. You charge, you swing, you survive maybe, and then you sit and wait for the next time. Night comes again. This time, the camp is tense. No fires, no songs. Just the shuffle of armor being removed in silence, the occasional moan of someone whose luck ran out slowly instead of instantly. You lie back on the cold earth and stare at the sky. There are no stars tonight. Maybe they've stopped watching. You sleep without dreams tonight, not because you're at peace, but because exhaustion has robbed you of the ability to conjure anything beyond blackness. When your eyes open again, it's because someone is shaking your shoulder. Not roughly, but not gently either. Just enough to say, you're not dead yet. Time to act like it. You sit up slowly. Every joint protests. Your back, your neck, your knees. They've all decided to file a formal complaint. You groan like an old door, reach for your boots, and wince as your foot slides into something wet. Again. Outside, dawn is trying its best, but the trees are stubborn. They let in just enough light to make everything look haunted. Shadows creep in corners where shadows shouldn't be. Your breath fogs in the air, and your fingers are too stiff to make a proper fist at first. You stretch them. You move. That's what counts. Today you're tasked with digging, not trenches, pits. There are bodies, not yours, not yet. Some of the fallen are from yesterday's clash, some from before, a few from who knows when. Their uniforms are faded, their faces slack. They look like they're sleeping, except they're not. You try not to think about it. You focus on the shovel, on the repetitive motion, on the ache in your shoulders that keeps your mind away from other things. The soil here is thick with roots. Every few digs, you hit one, and the jolt runs up your arms like punishment. Someone nearby hums a tune. You want to tell them to stop, but the sound is oddly comforting, almost human. By midday, the pits are full. You help cover them, carefully, quietly. You don't speak. No one does. Words don't sit well here. Afterward, you sit by a stump and eat a crust of hard bread and half a boiled turnip. It's the best meal you've had all week. Someone shares a sliver of dried apple. Real fruit. You chew slowly, trying to stretch the taste across the entire afternoon. It's gone too soon. Orders arrive with a man on a horse, another officer who looks like he hasn't been near danger in weeks. His uniform is clean. His expression is not. He tells your company you're moving again, South this time, into lowlands, swamplands. Excellent. You pack up camp. Tents come down, packs go up, armor back on. Every motion is muscle memory now. You could do this in your sleep. And sometimes you do. The worst part, you no longer question why. The road south is less a road and more a suggestion. The mud here doesn't splash. It sucks. Each step comes with a sticky resistance, as though the earth itself is tired of being stepped on. You start counting your steps just to stay sane. 100, 200, 300. At 500, you lose track. The air grows thick, wet. Bugs form clouds around your face. One flies straight into your mouth. You spit and curse. Someone laughs. It feels good to laugh, even for half a breath. But then the ground changes. It's not just mud now. It's water up to your ankles, then shins. You hold your pack higher. Your pike turns into a wading stick. A man behind you slips and goes under for a second. He emerges coughing, with leeches on his neck. You turn away. The smell is rich, like rot, fermented leaves, and dead things too long in the sun. You try breathing through your mouth. It helps. A little. You keep moving. Eventually, you reach a dry patch, or at least a less wet one. The company stops. Camp again. You drop your gear, flop to the ground, and remove one boot. Your foot looks like a pale mushroom. You pretend not to care. That night, the air swarms with insects. They buzz in your ears, land on your face, crawl into places you wish they wouldn't. You cover yourself with a cloak, but it doesn't help much. Sleep comes in snippets. 10 minutes here, 5 there. You slap your arm. A fat mosquito bursts. You stop caring. Someone snores beside you like a saw through wet wood. You don't sleep. You lie there and listen to the swamp sing. In the morning, there's a surprise. New recruits, fresh, clean, wide-eyed. Their boots still have soles. Their gear shines. One of them waves. You blink slowly and say nothing. They'll learn. They're assigned to your unit, of course. You get paired with a boy who looks 16 if he's lucky. He tells you his name is Jonas. You nod. You won't remember it. No one remembers names here unless they're carved into something. He asks a lot of questions. How long have you been out here? What's the worst part? Is it true they use boiling oil? You answer some. You ignore the rest. He'll figure it out. You notice his hands shaking when he tries to put on his breastplate. You help him adjust it. He thanks you. You grunt in reply. That afternoon, you march again. The ground improves, a little. More solid. Fewer leeches. Your boots still squish, but they stay on. You count that as a win. You pass the remnants of a skirmish. Burnt carts, arrows stuck in trees, a broken wheel half buried in muck. A skull grins from beneath a bush. No one reacts. Jonas turns pale. You keep walking. That night, you make camp by a stream. You wash your hands. It feels luxurious. The water is cold and clear. You don't even mind the pebbles bruising your knees. Jonas joins you. He says nothing. Just scrubs his hands over and over. You see the cuts. Small, soft, new. Later, as you eat more of the stew, that was once a turnip, you hear him crying quietly in his tent. You don't go to him. You don't say anything. You've been that sound. So has everyone here. You finish eating. You lie back. You watch the sky. A single star blinks through the clouds. Maybe it's watching again. The next morning comes gently, with a mist that hangs like breath above the ground. You lie there a while, wrapped in a damp blanket, not quite ready to move. The sounds of camp filter in. Boots thudding, someone cursing over a bent buckle, the slurp of water being poured into a dented kettle. normal things. Almost comforting. You sit up slowly. Your back reminds you it's been treated more like a beast of burden than part of a human body. You stretch, yawn, wince. The fog clings to your eyelashes. You rub it away and blink into the same old world. Jonas is already awake. He's polishing his helmet with a cloth like it's going to matter. You almost smile. The kid still believes in polish, in shine, in being seen. You toss him a dry piece of bread. He thanks you like you handed him a feast. His teeth are still white. It's unsettling. The company assembles. Today is another march, of course. When is it not? The land changes again. Less swamp, more rocky hills now. It makes walking harder somehow. The incline shifts constantly. One moment you're leaning back. The next you're hunched forward like a drunkard chasing gravity. The rocks stab through your soles. Your boots, already half dead, do nothing to soften the blow. You start counting your steps again. At 300, you stop. Not because you've found rhythm, but because counting makes you notice the pain more. Somewhere behind you, a man coughs until he retches. No one offers help. No one asks. You all just keep walking. The sound fades. Maybe he caught up. Maybe he didn't. By midday, the wind shifts. It carries a smell. Smoke. Not campfire smoke. Too heavy, too oily. You know that smell. You know it well. Burnt wood. Burnt something else. You're close to the front. Your captain confirms it. He points with his sword to the rise ahead, where a line of smoke fingers the sky like ink in water. There, he says. That's where we're needed. Needed. That's a generous word. You keep walking. At the top of the hill, you finally see it. The battlefield. Not in action yet. But it's ready. Two armies poised like chess pieces waiting for hands to move. Banners flutter in the breeze. Horses stamp and snort. Officers shout instructions from horseback, pointing and gesturing as if any of this makes sense. Your stomach tightens. Not with fear, exactly. With inevitability. You're going down there. That's all there is to it. You're positioned in the second rank, just far enough back to think you might survive the initial volley, just close enough to know you'll still be needed to mop up whatever's left. Jonas is next to you. He keeps touching his sword hilt, like it's going to leap into action without him. His hands shake again. You almost reach out. Almost. Instead, you just say, "Keep your shield up." He nods too many times. The order comes. You descend. The ground trembles with marching feet. You feel it in your chest, like a second heartbeat. Ahead, the lines begin to move. Horns blare. Arrows arc across the sky. Tiny shadows that grow as they fall. You duck instinctively, even though you know you're still too far back. It doesn't matter. The fear is baked in now. It lives in your bones. The first clash is a sound you'll never forget. Steel on steel, then steel on flesh, then a roar of voices. Not battle cries, not shouts of triumph, just noise, human noise, desperate, hungry, afraid. You are shoved forward. You grip your sword, your shield. You take a breath, the last clean one you'll get for a while. And then, suddenly, you're in it. There's no choreography, no elegant footwork, just chaos. Your blade swings, meets resistance, maybe flesh, maybe wood. You don't look. You just keep moving, keep pushing. Someone falls beside you. You step over him. Someone else grabs your arm. You slam your shield into his face. You don't even see who it was. You hear Jonas cry out. You spin, see him stumbling, shield dropped. You shove someone away and grab him, drag him behind your shield. He's got a gash on his arm. Not deep. bleeding, but he's breathing. He nods once, then picks his weapon back up. You both keep going. Minutes stretch. Or maybe it's seconds. Time folds in battle. You're no longer you. You're just motion, weight, metal sweat. And then, as suddenly as it began, it starts to end. You don't win. Not exactly. But the enemy pulls back, retreats, leaves the field. You don't chase. You collapse. You sit down, sword on the ground, helmet tilted back. You breathe through your mouth, but the taste of blood hangs in the air. Yours. Someone else's? You don't know. Around you, others do the same. Some slump, some sob. One man laughs, high-pitched and hollow. You look for Jonas. He's sitting nearby, holding his arm, his eyes wide, his face pale, but he's alive. You nod at him. He nods back. That's enough. Medics come. Stretchers appear. Bodies are dragged. The stink of death mixes with the smoke. You try not to look at the faces. You fail. One is familiar. A man from your unit. Quiet guy. Good with a knife. He's staring at the sky now. Mouth open. No sound. You close his eyes with your hand. The sun dips low. The field is a mess. Blood, broken weapons, discarded gear. You're told to help gather supplies. So you do. You pick up helmets, swords, a bow missing half its string. You move like someone half asleep. Back at camp, food is waiting, not much. A thin soup. Some biscuits. You eat without tasting. Later, Jonas sits next to you. He doesn't speak. You don't either. You just sit, letting the silence cover you like another layer of armor. You wonder how many more fields like this are waiting. How many more hills you'll climb. How many more screams you'll hear. And then you lie down. You don't dream again. You just vanish into the dark. You wake to birdsong. Not the gentle kind that makes poets swoon, but the loud, obnoxious squawking of some species with a grudge against the world. It screams from the treetops like it's mocking you for surviving another night. You open your eyes and stare at the low canvas ceiling of your tent. You lie still, counting the seconds it takes for your breath to even out. Your ribs hurt, probably from yesterday's fall, or maybe from the shield bash, or the yelling. Outside, the camp stirs. Men groan and stretch and scratch in places best left unscratched. There's a smell of smoke and something pretending to be coffee. Someone has started a fire, and someone else is already arguing about rations. You sit up. Your body responds like an overworked mule, begrudgingly. Your knees crack. Your lower back sounds like gravel in a pouch. You pull on your boots and accept, once again, that dry socks are a myth made up by rich people. Today, there's no march. Today, there's inspection. The commander, a man who looks like a tax collector dressed in iron, wants to assess the men, which means you'll stand in a line, sweating in the morning sun, while he pretends to remember your face, and pretends even harder to care if you're still capable of fighting. You line up next to Jonas. He looks slightly better this morning, a little color back in his cheeks. He even tries to flatten his hair. You resist the urge to tell him it's pointless. The commander walks by slowly, eyes like pebbles. He nods at some, grunts at others. When he gets to you, he says, "Still standing, are we?" You nod. He moves on. You take that as a compliment. After inspection comes gear check. You lay out your sword, your shield, your bent breastplate, your fraying boots. The quartermaster walks past with a ledger and a quill so chewed you wonder if he uses it to write or snack. He checks boxes, says nothing. You ask for new boots. He laughs. Later, you help dig latrine trenches. Glamorous, isn't it? But better than latrines not existing. You learn to appreciate the little things, like the absence of certain smells, or dry dirt. During the digging, Jonas talks. He tells you about his mother, about her bread still warm on winter mornings, about the way she sang while chopping onions. He doesn't say it, but you know he's trying to remember, trying not to let war strip it away. You nod. You offer a few scraps of your own. A fishing trip with your uncle. The sound of goats on the hill. Bread, yes, always bread. For a moment, the shovel feels lighter. In the afternoon, you're told to prepare for visitors. Dignitaries. Why? You're not sure. Probably to observe the spirit of the common soldier, or to sniff around and write letters back to court about how well the war's going. Either way, it means cleaning yourself as best you can and pretending to look alert while trying not to fall over. You rinse your face in the stream. You scrub your hands until the water runs brown. You straighten your armor and push your hair back. You still look terrible, but slightly less terrible. You'll take it. The dignitaries arrive on horseback. Cloaks of velvet, gloves of leather, boots that have never touched mud. They ride past in a line, nodding solemnly like mourners at a funeral they're not emotionally invested in. One stops in front of you, a woman, surprisingly, tall, pale, lips drawn in a line so thin it might be a scar. Her eyes linger on your shield, then on your face. "Where are you from, soldier?" she asks. You pause. The name of your village catches in your throat like a fish hook. You haven't said it out loud in months. You tell her. She nods once. They grow good barley there. And then she rides on. That's it. You don't know what you expected. A medal. A speech. A transfer to a unit with shoes. No. Just a nod. Just barley. The sun dips low again. You eat dinner with Jonas, more stew, slightly more vegetables. You think there was a pea in yours. Just one. You celebrate internally. Later, you sit on a stump and clean your sword. It's become a ritual. Not for the sword. For your mind. The scraping, the wiping, the polishing. It keeps your thoughts in one place. Jonas asks if you think the war will end soon. You shrug. Then you lie. Probably. He nods. He wants to believe it. You let him. Night falls with less cold than usual. You curl up beneath your blanket and watch the stars blink on, one by one. You count them. You forget the number halfway through. It doesn't matter. You think about the woman and the barley. You think about bread again. The way it cracked just right when pulled apart. You wonder if your hands will ever feel clean again. Sleep comes slower this time, but it comes. And for the first time in a while, the birds don't wake you. The bugle does. Of course it does. You're already halfway to upright before your eyes are fully open. That's how the rhythm of it sets in. Your body moves before your brain catches up, trained like an old mule that doesn't question the reins anymore. You blink against the early light and sit on the edge of your bedroll, feeling like a poorly stuffed sack of bones. Outside, someone's cursing at a frozen strap. The air has that kind of sharpness that bites your nose and fingers. Morning mist clings low to the ground, swirling like it's trying to decide whether to become fog or just stay irritating. You can see your breath. You can't feel your toes. Breakfast is a ladle of warm broth, if you can call it that. Water with a suspicious slick of grace on top, and two things floating in it. One might be barley. The other, best not to ask. You sip it anyway. It's hot. That's what matters. Jonas joins you, hands jammed in his sleeves. His eyes are red-rimmed. Not from tears. He's long past that stage. but from the cold and maybe the ache of growing older faster than anyone should. You offer him half your crust of bread. He hesitates, then takes it. That's a good sign. A week ago he would have refused out of pride. Now, he understands. You share because you're still alive. That's what makes it worth sharing. Today is training day, not for you. You've already had all the training you're going to get. But for the new recruits, a fresh batch came in just before nightfall. You saw their silhouettes against the firelight, upright, curious, still chewing with both sides of their mouths. Now, in daylight, they're standing in a wobbly row across the clearing, waiting to be shouted at. You and your unit are there too, but in a different row. The grim, slightly crooked line of the used ones. You watch as an officer, a wary man with a voice like a cracked trumpet, paces in front of the greenhorns. He begins the speech. It's the same speech you got once, something about duty, honor, glory, something about fighting for the cause, something about how bravery will be remembered. You don't listen, not really. You mouth some of the words along, just to amuse yourself. Jonas notices. He smirks. Then comes the weapon drill. You're assigned to demonstrate basic formations. It's not hard. You've done it so many times your arms move on their own. Thrust. Shield up. Step left. Repeat. The young ones try to mimic you, some with too much flair, others like they're dancing with invisible ghosts. One drops his sword. Another spins the wrong way and nearly trips. You remember being like that. You remember wishing someone would slow it down, explain it better, give you just 5 more minutes to learn the thing that could mean the difference between breathing and not. No one did. So you step in. You show the nervous one how to keep his feet under him. You steady the shaking grip of the one with the 2 long spear. You don't shout. You don't lecture. You just show. That's enough. The training drags into midday. Armor clinks, swords dull, tempers fray. One recruit swears after a misstep, and the officer makes him run laps around the camp with a log on his shoulders. He cries, quietly. You hand him a water skin when he passes. He nods. He can't speak. Jonas watches all of this with a strange intensity. Later, as you're tending to your own gear, he speaks. We looked like that once, didn't we? You pause. Think not. Do you think we'll look like them again? If we live long enough. You glance at the officer, still pacing, still barking, still too clean. You shrug. Maybe. The afternoon brings news, not orders. Just news. A scout brings word of movement near the river pass. Enemy forces. Maybe 2 days away. Maybe less. No one knows for sure. You're told to prepare. Which means cleaning weapons, packing supplies, making your body believe that it's rested when it isn't. The tension in camp thickens like smoke. No one says much. No one needs to. You can feel it in the way people walk. Quieter, heavier. Even the birds seem to have taken the day off. You spend the evening wrapping your feet in rags. No new boots. Still. But a man from another unit traded you a bundle of fabric for half your soap. It smells like someone's aunt, but it's dry, and that's worth everything. You also sharpen your blade. It's a comforting sound, metal on stone, rhythmic, predictable. A little song of survival. You pass the stone down the edge again and again, until your wrist aches. Across the fire, Jonas is watching you. He's not asking questions tonight. That's probably good. He sharpens his own weapon. Slower, less confident. You say nothing. He's learning, painfully but honestly. You sleep early, or you try. but the fire crackles too loudly, and someone snores with a high whine like a kettle. You roll over. You roll back. You stare at the fabric ceiling and trace invisible patterns with your eyes. Circles. Loops. Anything to stay away from the thoughts creeping in. Like what you'll see at the river. Like who might not come back. Like what it feels like to forget your own last name. Eventually, exhaustion wins. It always does. You drift off to the scent of smoke and steel and something faintly sweet. Maybe someone's hoarded apple, or maybe just your imagination remembering better days. Morning doesn't rise so much as it rolls in like a tired wave. The sky is smeared with gray, like someone tried to paint it with wet wool and gave up halfway through. You wake slowly, back stiff, limbs reluctant. Your mouth tastes like leather and iron. Someone pokes the fire back to life. A few coals glow, reluctant but obedient. You sit up, stretch, and hear a dozen little cracks in your spine. You're not sure if that's a warning or applause. Either way, you stand. The orders come soon after. Prepare to move. Destination. The river crossing. You don't know what's waiting there, but the tone of the message implies it's not a welcoming committee. The officer who delivers it has that look. The one they get when they know the numbers are about to drop, and they're already practicing the speech for acceptable losses. Our Jonas doesn't speak as you pack. He tightens his straps, checks his blade, folds his blanket with an almost ceremonial care. You do the same. There's no rush. You've done this enough to know there's time, and not enough of it. You join the column. It's smaller now. You try not to count, but you do. Fewer than before. You remember faces that used to be here. A man with a crooked nose who used to whistle through it. A kid with a birthmark the size of a walnut. A big guy with soft eyes who handed out biscuits like a priest handing out blessings. Gone. All of them. The march begins. You travel light, but your gear still pulls on your shoulders like wet stone. The river isn't far, but the road curves and climbs and dips with malicious intent. The sky stays gray. A little wind picks up, carrying the scent of water and something else. Something metallic, sharp, familiar. Blood. The closer you get, the quieter the unit becomes. No one sings. No one cracks jokes. Even the habitual cougher from row 3 manages to stifle it. When you reach the ridge above the river, you finally see it. A narrow crossing, lined with stones and jagged wood. On the far side, movement, shapes, men, armor. The enemy. They're waiting too. You're given time to rest. To gather strength. Which is a polite way of saying, sit down and try not to soil yourself. You sit under a tree, share some dry beans with Jonas, and watch the fog swirl over the water. It's beautiful. In a cruel, eerie kind of way. Like the world is trying to make your last view a painting. An officer approaches. He gives you a task. Not to fight. To carry the standard. You blink. Not because you're shocked, but because it means something. It means you'll be up front. Visible. A target, but also, in some twisted way, a symbol. You. Cannon fodder. Human decoration. You accept without words, not out of honor, out of inevitability. The banner is heavy. Not physically, though the pole isn't exactly light. It's heavy with meaning. With attention. You don't like attention. Not here. But you shoulder it anyway. When the trumpet calls, down the slope, toward the river, toward whatever waits. The first arrow doesn't hit you. Neither does the second. But they're flying, and the sound they make is worse than the impact. Sharp, whispering, final. You march steadily. not by choice. Because your legs have decided it's easier to move than freeze. The riverbank is slick, mud, water, churned earth. You slip once, recover. Your boots are soaked again. Always, you reach the edge. Then the horn blares again, and everything goes forward. You charge. Not like a hero, like a wave. A desperate, crashing thing made of legs and steel and muscle and fear. The banner whips in the wind behind you. You hold it tight, as if letting go will make everything real. Around you, chaos blooms. Shouts, clashes, screams. The river swallows more than just feet. It drinks blood now. The water turns pink, then red, then dark. You don't fight. Not with your sword. Your job is to hold the banner high. So you do. You plant your feet in the mud and raise the pole, trying not to tremble, trying not to cry. You feel like a tree pretending not to be terrified of lightning. An enemy soldier sees you. He charges. You brace. But before he reaches you, someone intercepts Jonas, quick, angry, desperate. He knocks the man back, then stands over you. Keep it up, he says. You do. Hours pass, or minutes, hard to say. Eventually, the lines shift, retreat, advance, both, neither. It becomes a blur of mud and motion and pain. You think you're still alive. You think you haven't dropped the banner. When the fighting ends, it's because there's nothing left to fight. The enemy pulls back, not defeated. Just done for the moment. You collapse near a tree. The banner leans beside you. Jonas sits down next to you. His face is pale, speckled with dirt and blood. He's breathing hard. So are you. You didn't drop it, he says. That's good. You nod. Around you others gather. Some sit, some kneel. Some just lie flat and stare at the sky. The river runs quietly now. You look at your hands. Blistered, cut, but still there. You made it through. This one. Someone brings water. It's warm and tastes like rust. You drink it anyway. You look at Jonas. He looks older. Already? So do you. Back at camp, there's no feast. Just fire. Just silence. Just the slow return of noise that doesn't hurt. You lie down that night near the embers. You think of home, of bread, of barley, of your real name. You whisper it to yourself just to remember. Then you sleep. And for the first time in a long while, the banner stays in your dreams, upright. You wake with your fingers curled around nothing. For a moment, your mind tries to locate the weight of the banner, the rush of adrenaline, the stink of mud and blood and smoke. But there's only morning, pale, yellowish, indifferent. And your hand? Just twitching at your side like it's forgotten what stillness feels like. Jonas is already up. He's scraping ash out of a small pot, muttering something about the firewood being haunted. You stretch and immediately regret it. Every joint you own files a protest. Your spine crackles like a dry branch underfoot. You sit up slowly, biting the inside of your cheek to avoid groaning out loud. You survive the river crossing. That doesn't mean you get to rest. After yesterday's skirmish, there's no celebration. No flag planting. Just the dull work of living. Of cleaning, burying, inventorying. Turns out even the aftermath of battle is a job. You spend the morning marching again. Because of course you do. South, this time. Past the now quiet banks of the river. Past twisted banners stuck in the earth like broken teeth. Past old carts, looted armor, boots with no owners. You try not to look at the boots. You fail. One has a sock still in it. The road winds up into the hills. Your legs hate it immediately. The incline is shallow, but it doesn't matter. Everything burns. Your breath hitches. Your eyes sting from the dust. You feel like a machine built entirely from used parts. The column stretches behind you like a centipede that doesn't know where its own head is. Up ahead, a scout rides back with news. You'll reach the next outpost by dusk. That means tents tonight, real tents, and, rumor has it, dry bread, a luxury. You smile briefly. It hurts your face. Midday heat creeps in, turning your armor into a portable furnace. Sweat drips down your back, pooling in places you don't want to talk about. You long for cold, for wind, for someone to invent linen uniforms. You pass a field where horses graze. Fat, sleek, pampered beasts. You eye one with a kind of slow resentment. It's being brushed by a squire wearing a clean tunic. The horse flicks its tail and gets an apple. You haven't seen an apple in 3 weeks. Jonas is watching too. He mutters, "Next time I'm coming back as a horse." You reply, "Only if you're born to a noble." He shrugs. "Better odds than I've got now." The next village is just a collection of low stone huts and burned out fences. The people there, what's left of them, don't speak. A few come to the road, holding out baskets of wilted herbs and turnips. You're not allowed to take anything, of course. Maintaining discipline, the officer says. You look into the eyes of an old woman who holds up a single onion like it's gold. You want to take it. You want to give her something. But your hands stay at your sides. At dusk, the outpost appears. It's not much. A wooden palisade. A few tents. A single fire crackling in the center. But it's dry. It's guarded. And it smells only mildly of despair. You're given a corner of canvas and told it's yours for the night. You sit, then lie down, then sit again. Your body can't decide which is worse. You remove your boots and sigh. Your feet look like something a fisherman might throw back. Dinner is astonishingly hot. A thin gruel with bits of carrot, or maybe just orange things pretending to be carrot. You eat in silence. Jonas joins you. His hair is wet from washing, and for a second, he looks almost like a kid again. Then the firelight catches the scar on his arm and the illusion dies. A man nearby begins to sing, quietly. A slow, mournful tune that sounds like it was written by someone watching a candle burn out. No one joins in, but no one stops him either. You lean back and stare at the stars. They're clearer here, sharp, bright, indifferent. You remember lying under them as a child, counting constellations and pretending they had stories. Now they just look like distant knives. You fall asleep with your sword next to you. Not for safety, just because it's yours. The next morning, they wake you early. Again. You eat a piece of bread that tastes faintly of smoke and something you can't identify. You chew slowly. You imagine butter. You pretend not to be disappointed when it doesn't appear. Today is inventory day. That means someone somewhere wants numbers. You're lined up and counted. Your gear is weighed. Your rations noted. Your boots inspected and declared passable, despite the fact that the left one is being held together by sheer bitterness and a bit of string. The quartermaster ticks boxes like it matters. You're assigned to move crates. Heavy ones. You lift, you carry, you stack. Over and over. You try not to notice that some of the crates smell like herbs, or iron, or old wine. You try not to imagine that they're going to the officer's tent. Jonas carries 2 at once and nearly trips. You catch one. He grins. You should have let me fall. Then I could have gone home. You smirk. You think they'd send you home. They'd just prop you up and tell you to keep swinging. The afternoon is filled with nothing. which is both a blessing and a curse. Time drags when you're not in motion. You notice things. The pain in your back, the crack in your nail, the blister on your heel that hums with every heartbeat. You miss marching and hate yourself for it. Later, someone brings word of new boots. For the officers, yours are still fine. That night, you lie on your side and listen to the quiet. No drums, no horns. Just the creak of tents, the crackle of fire, and the occasional cough. Jonas whispers, "Do you think they'll remember us?" You stare at the dark ceiling of the tent. No. He's quiet for a moment. Then, that's fair. You sleep. And you dream, not of home or glory or even bread. You dream of walking. Endlessly walking. Because that's what you do now. That's who you are. You walk again. No one tells you why. Not really. There's talk of a supply line that needs reinforcing, or a village that hasn't sent taxes in too long, or perhaps just someone in command pointing vaguely at a map and saying, "Them. Go there." So you go. Your feet hit the road with the steady resignation of someone who's stopped hoping for anything but shade and survival. The boots. Yes. Still the same boots. Rub your heels raw, but you're past the stage of blister complaints. Your feet have evolved, or devolved. They now resemble something between leather and cooked meat. Jonas walks beside you. Neither of you speaks for an hour. There's nothing to say. The rhythm of the march is its own language. Left, right, step, shift, grunt, cough, sigh. That's the closest you get to poetry these days. The road is flatter now, but the sun is out, and it's cruel. A white, heavy sun that presses down on your helmet like it's trying to flatten your skull. You start sweating before breakfast finishes digesting. The back of your neck burns. Your mouth goes dry. You sip water and immediately regret it. There's never enough. You pass a dead mule. It's been there a while. You smell it before you see it, then wish you hadn't seen it. A broken cartwheel lies beside it, its spokes snapped like brittle bones. The beast's eyes are sunken, flies buzzing where honor should be. You think briefly about who mourns mules. Probably no one. A corporal stops you at a fork in the path and points you toward a field. "Scouting detail," he says. You don't argue. You just go. The field is wide and yellowing, dotted with scrubby weeds and the occasional sad tree. You spread out. You look for signs, enemy movement, abandoned gear, anything interesting. What you find is shoes. Lots of them. Half buried in the dirt, like strange crops planted and forgotten. Men's boots. Child-sized sandals. A single high-heeled slipper with a broken strap. You stop and stare. The others do too. No one speaks. Then someone mutters, "Graves, maybe." You keep moving. The wind picks up. It doesn't cool you down. It just brings dust. It sticks to your face, your lips, your teeth. You feel like you're chewing sand. You remember hearing once that desert fighters used to soak rags in vinegar and wear them over their mouths. You try it, but all you have is a stale biscuit and a strip of damp wool. Back in the main column, people are starting to lag. One man collapses, not dramatically, just folds like a tent in the rain. Two others help him up, but they don't look hopeful. He's breathing, but he won't be tomorrow. You've seen that look. You pass another village. Burnt. Not recently. The fire was old, the ash now just part of the soil. Roofs are collapsed. Beams poke up like ribs. A well still stands in the center, though its rope is gone and the bucket lies splintered nearby. You wonder how many people ran, how many stayed. You reach the outskirts and see a single child's toy lying in the dust. A wooden horse missing a leg. Someone picks it up, looks at it, and quietly tucks it into their pack. No one asks why. By nightfall, your unit reaches a crossroads and sets camp. You barely remember pitching your tent. Your fingers work on instinct now. Pegs, ropes, flap. Done. Dinner is more of the same grey stew, hard bread, and the rumor of a carrot. You eat while sitting on your helmet, which is uncomfortable but better than the ground. Jonas eats slowly, like each bite takes negotiation. Do you remember what real food tastes like? He asks. You shrug. Salt, smoke, maybe garlic. He nods. Garlic, that's the one. You both chew in silence, imagining garlic. That night, someone sneaks off. You know because the sergeant wakes everyone by shouting, "He's gone." A man named Rel. Small, quiet, good with knots. Gone. The sergeant fumes. Desertion. Treason. Cowardice. You all stand in a line while he paces. He says if anyone sees Rel, they're to report it immediately. That it's an offense to the company. That we rely on each other. You nod because nodding is easier than arguing. But in your mind, you picture Rel walking under the stars, barefoot and free. You hope he makes it. Later, Jonas whispers, "Do you think they'll find him?" You shake your head, then lie. Yes. The next morning, they find a body hanging from a tree. It's not Rel. It's someone else. A thief, maybe, or another deserter. The body swings in the breeze, the face covered by a sack. A sign hangs around his neck, "Justice." You walk past quickly. Jonas says nothing. You don't either. 2 days later, you arrive at a town that still stands. It's small, but not burned. People are wary. Doors creak open, eyes peer out. You're not here to fight, just to rest, refill water. Maybe buy supplies if your sergeant is feeling generous. You walk into the town square, and for a moment, it feels like life again. A market stall has fresh onions. A dog barks lazily in the shade. You hear a woman laugh behind a curtain. You stop and just listen. A boy walks past with a loaf of bread. Real bread, crusty, warm looking. You can smell it. Your stomach growls. You look away. The sergeant allows each man to enter the market in pairs. You and Jonas take your turn. You trade a dented spoon and a whetstone for a half loaf and a sliver of cheese. You eat slowly. You want to cry, but you're too tired. A woman at the stall says, "You poor boys." You don't correct her. Back at camp, you notice something strange. The horses, those majestic, apple-eating beasts, are getting better treatment than you. Again, they have shade. Clean troughs. Some even have blankets. You sleep on canvas, sometimes mud. One of them wears a saddle that probably costs more than everything you own. You mutter something about reincarnation. Jonas laughs. That night, you lie on your back and stare at the stars again. You start giving them names. That one's onion. That one's garlic. That one, just above the crooked branch, is Rel. You fall asleep still whispering names, hoping someone somewhere might be doing the same for you. You wake up with a new kind of pain. It's not sharp, not deep, just tired. In your teeth, weirdly, as if even they have grown exhausted of clenching through each day. You stretch under the blanket, and every joint politely informs you that your warranty expired several campaigns ago. Today is inspection and maintenance, which sounds almost noble. In practice, it means you spend half the morning oiling rusted armor and patching canvas with thread so thin it might as well be hope. The medic set up a tent nearby. Not for healing. Don't be silly. It's more like a damage report booth. You line up and wait to be looked at. When it's your turn, the man across the table lifts one eyebrow, then your shirt. He pokes a bruise on your ribs and hums thoughtfully. No broken bones. Bruise might fester. Sounds promising. You mutter. He hands you a cloth soaked in something that smells like vinegar and old dreams. Clean it. Sleep on your back. You nod. You won't do either. But it's nice to pretend. Jonas isn't in line. He's down by the stream, sharpening his sword again. You notice he's doing it slower now. Not with fear, just thoughtfulness, like the blade might start talking back if he listens closely. You join him. He doesn't speak for a while. Then, I saw a dog this morning. Slept by the latrines. You nod. It looked cleaner than me. You both laugh, the kind of soft, breathy laugh that doesn't wake the pain. Later, you're called for duty. It's not patrol, thankfully. It's escort detail, for a doctor. A real one. Apparently, a noble physician from the capital is making rounds through the war front, observing field conditions, and taking notes that will definitely be turned into policies no one enforces. The man arrives in a carriage. A carriage, with wheels that haven't cracked and lanterns that shine. He steps down wearing spotless gloves and boots made of something that once lived in luxury. You and two others flank him as he walks through the camp, looking with fascination at the men and their wounds, the tents, the mud, the faces. My word, he mutters. They look haunted. You say nothing. Haunted people tend to. He stops at one tent and peers in. Inside lies a man with no foot, bandaged pale, staring at the ceiling like it might blink. The doctor asks. You reply, 2 days. He nods, scribbles something. Has he eaten? You shrug. He chewed something. The doctor sighs, like you've disappointed him by surviving incorrectly. He finishes his rounds and leaves, murmuring about case studies and public interest. The carriage rolls off, clean and polished. One of your unit watches it go and whispers, I hope his pen breaks. That evening, there's a commotion near the supply wagon. Turns out some of the salted meat rations were, in fact, not meat, or not the kind anyone agreed on. A rumor spreads, something about horse or rat or worse. You don't ask. You just eat the bread and scrape off the questionable stuff. Jonas sniffs his and tosses it to the dog from this morning. It eats it. Brave soul, you whisper. You're given an hour of free time. You use it to write a letter. Not because you think it'll be sent. Just because you need to remember what your handwriting looks like. You begin with dear and pause. You stare at the word for a long time, then write mother. The letter is short. You lie about food, about health. You say you miss her bread. You say you're fine. You sign your name. It looks unfamiliar. You fold the paper and slide it into your pack. Maybe one day it'll find her. Maybe not. Before sleep, you and Jonas walk to the edge of camp. Just far enough to feel like you're somewhere else. You sit on a log and listen to the wind. He asks, why are we still here? You answer without thinking. Because they are. You both know who they are. The ones who didn't make it. The ones who couldn't. You sit for a while longer just breathing. You return to camp, lie down, and close your eyes. But you don't sleep. Instead, you imagine what it would feel like to take off the armor and never put it on again. You wake to rain. Not a storm. Just that slow, whispering kind of rain that seeps into everything. It's not loud enough to scare you, not heavy enough to clean anything, but persistent in its wet little tyranny. Your blanket is damp. Your pack is damp. Your skin, damp, of course. You think, perhaps, even your bones have started absorbing moisture. You sit up and look at your boots. They greet you with their usual squelchy resignation. You put them on anyway. The sound they make is somewhere between a sigh and a betrayal. Jonas is already awake. He's crouched under a canvas sheet tied between two spears, boiling water in a dented tin. It smells faintly of herbs, or weeds pretending to be herbs. You sit beside him. He says, "The rain has been following us." You nod. "It likes us." He stirs the pot and adds, "Maybe it thinks we're dying plants." You smile. "We're more like mushrooms, pale and growing in the dark." He chuckles softly. "It's the most human sound you've heard all week. Today is a quiet day. No marching, no skirmishes, no drills, which means your mind has room to wander. A mistake, as always. You spend the morning cleaning your gear, not because you want to, but because if you don't, it rusts. You wipe your sword until the cloth turns black. You oil your armor, though some of the dents now resemble craters. Your helmet has a crack in it. You patch it with melted wax and a prayer. You think about home. You try not to, but it slips in. You picture the road near your village, the way it curved by the old olive trees. You picture the sound of your sister's laugh, the exact smell of stew on cold nights. You remember a dog, small, stupid, loyal. You wonder if it's still alive. You shake your head and go back to scrubbing rust. The rain keeps falling. It doesn't stop. It doesn't even slow. It just... Around midday, a messenger arrives. He's young, fresher than most. Still has color in his face and a bounce in his step. He carries a letter. Jonas is called. The boy hands him the letter with a small bow, and then leaves. You sit still as Jonas unfolds it, his hands trembling just enough to betray his fear. He reads. Eyes scanning. Lips moving without sound. You wait. He lowers the paper. "My father," he says. You nod slowly. He doesn't say the rest. He doesn't need to. You sit beside him. Close. Not touching. Just present. He folds the paper carefully, like it might crumble if he blinks too hard. Then he puts it in his boot. Close to the heart, if the body were designed differently. No one asks for the details. In camp, grief is understood by posture. That evening, the cook tries something new. A soup thickened with flour or old dreams. No one's sure. It tastes like wet bread. You eat all of it. Afterward, you're put on watch. You stand under a makeshift tarp, watching the forest edge, listening to the rain patter against canvas and puddles. The trees sway gently, whispering to one another, or maybe just creaking. Your spear leans on your shoulder. Your sword rests at your hip. You stand still for an hour. Then, too, Jonas appears quietly and takes the spot beside you. You don't speak. Sometimes silence is the deepest kind of comfort. A shape moves in the distance. You tense, but it's only a deer. Thin, cautious, damp. You watch it graze, then vanish into the trees. You turn to Jonas. Still here? He nods. Not all of me, maybe, but enough. You nod back. Later you sit beside the fire. No one talks much tonight. A few snores. A cough. The occasional sniff of someone trying not to cry. You lie on your side, staring at the curve of the tent wall. Sleep comes gently. You dream of something soft. Not a field. Not a home. Just the sound of rain on dry leaves. When you wake, the rain has stopped, but the wet remains. The world smells different after rain. Not better, just different. Damp earth, wet canvas, smoke trying to claw its way out of wet wood. You blink against the pale light of morning and notice the silence. Not the good kind. The expectant kind. The kind that wraps around you like cold fingers and tells you something is coming. You sit up slowly. Your blanket is heavy with moisture, and your back crackles like old parchment. Jonas is already awake, sitting cross-legged, staring at nothing. The letter is still tucked into his boot. Breakfast today is a hunk of bread so stale it could legally qualify as a weapon, and something resembling tea. You dunk the bread in it and pretend it softens. It doesn't. Orders come just after the sun clears the tree line. You're moving. Again. But not just marching. This time it's different. It's preparation. There are whispers of a larger conflict ahead. Maybe a siege. Maybe a decisive push. You've heard those words before. Decisive. Last stand. One final effort. There lies usually. But this time the officers look twitchy. Even the ones with clean boots. You pack quickly. Armor on, sword sheathed. Shield strapped. Spear, still cracked near the middle, grip tight. You move like a machine built from wet iron and bruised habits. The column forms. The hills roll out before you, golden and green in places, but mostly gray. Distant plumes of smoke curl from villages too quiet to trust. A single raven circles above, patient and thoughtful. The road winds. Midday comes and goes, and the sun feels sharp again, like it's watching you and waiting. You shift your gear, trying to move the weight from one aching shoulder to the other. It doesn't help. It never does. You crest a ridge, and there it is. The fort. Not yours. Theirs. It's massive. Jagged. Built from stone the color of broken teeth. Flags hang limply along its walls, and smoke rises from chimneys within. A siege is brewing. You can feel it. You can smell it. Your unit is assigned to the outer line. A ring of living bodies placed between the enemy and everyone who makes decisions. It's not glamorous, but it's always necessary. You dig trenches, set spikes, arrange stones, build the illusion of control. The work is hard, relentless. Your hands blister. Your back throbs. Jonas scrapes his thumb open on a nail. He wraps it in cloth and says nothing. You sleep that night in a shallow pit beside a pile of firewood. The stars are faint and pale. The fire nearby gives off more smoke than warmth. Someone tries to sing a song and forgets the words halfway through. No one finishes it for him. You wake before dawn. Trumpets call out from somewhere up the line. Not yours. Theirs. The siege has begun. You scramble to your feet, armor on. Helmet adjusted, shield gripped. Everything feels heavier now. You're not first in line. You never are. But you're close enough. Close enough to see the enemy movements, to hear their drums, to feel the ground tremble beneath their siege towers. You wait. That's the worst part. Waiting. It stretches time, bends it. You feel hours pass between each heartbeat. Your mouth dries out. Your fingers tremble. Your thoughts begin to loop. And then, noise. Shouting. Metal. The crack of something large hitting something else. You peer over the trench wall and see them. Dozens, maybe hundreds, flooding toward your line like ants poured from a boot. The command is given. Hold. You do. They hit the front. Hard. You feel the shudder run through the line as their weight crashes into yours. You're not in the front row, but you move forward as others fall back. You step over a body without looking. You swing your sword. The sound of steel on steel is deafening. You block. Swing. Step. Block again. A man in strange armor lunges at you. Eyes wide, mouth open in something between a roar and a plea. You don't remember striking him, but he falls. The line surges again. And again, you lose track of time, of space, of people. You move because you have to. You fight because stopping means dying. Your shield is cracked, your blade dull, your arms numb. You fall once. A boot lands on your wrist. You scream. Jonas grabs you, pulls you upright, eyes wild. "Don't die," he says. It's not a plea. It's an order. You nod. Eventually, the line holds, they retreat. Not because you won, because they didn't. You collapse behind the trench, mud to your elbows, blood in your mouth. You don't know if it's yours. Jonas sits beside you, gasping, one eye nearly swollen shut. You hand him water. He spills half of it, then laughs like it's the funniest thing in the world. That night the camp is silent. No songs. No fire. Too many missing faces. You lie down, staring at the inside of your helmet. You wonder, not for the first time, if you've become someone else entirely. You sleep, and dream of nothing. The morning after battle is the quietest sound in the world. You wake not to horns, not to shouting, not even to the scrape of armor being pulled on. Just silence. A deep, aching silence that makes your ears ring. Like the world itself is holding its breath. You sit up slowly. Your back is one massive knot. Your right shoulder is bruised purple. Your lips are cracked, and your hands, well, they don't look like hands anymore. More like old bark, chipped and blistered. You breathe in. The air smells like wet ashes and something sour. You look to your right. Jonas is asleep. His face is bruised and his eye swollen shut, but his chest rises and falls, slow and steady. He made it through the night. You don't wake him. You stand. You walk through the camp like a ghost among other ghosts. Men are limping, dragging themselves to water barrels. Some sit and stare at nothing. Others have bandages across faces, arms, thighs. One man has no leg, another no fingers. No one weeps, not today. You pass a row of bodies laid beneath makeshift cloth shrouds. Someone tied bits of string around their wrists. You don't know if it's to identify them, or just to keep the wind from blowing the cloth away. You stop at one. The hand poking out looks familiar. You crouch. It's the quiet man who used to hum at night. He carved tiny birds from wood scraps. Gave one to Jonas once. It sat in his pouch for weeks. You nod. Say nothing. Then walk on. Breakfast is offered, but most don't eat. You sip something warm and salty, but it barely passes as food. Still, you're too tired to complain. You sit near a dying fire and let your armor rest against a log. You stare at the horizon and try to remember what your life looked like without smoke on it. Orders come at midday. They want volunteers. For what? Doesn't matter. It's always the same, dangerous, poorly explained, and somehow always your problem. You step forward. So does Jonas, though he winces as he moves. A sergeant nods. You'll head up to the outpost near the ridge. Scout. Report. Return. Simple. You both know it won't be. You gather your gear. The ridge is a day's walk, maybe more. You set out with 5 others. Men you don't know well. They smell like old leather and dried blood. You all move in silence. Talking wastes breath. The road curves through woods. At first, it's quiet. Then the forest begins to whisper. Branches creak, leaves rustle. A bird calls once, then falls silent, as if it too is watching. The trail is narrow, muddy in places, strewn with leaves. You step carefully. Every twig underfoot sounds like a shout. Jonas walks beside you. His limp is subtle, but you can tell it's worsening. You say, you can turn back. He says, I'd rather limp beside you than sit and rot. You don't argue. Midway up the ridge, it starts to snow. Just a flurry at first. Light, lazy flakes that land on your cloak and melt into cold spots. Then more. Thicker. The trail vanishes under a soft white coat. You squint, pull your hood lower. You press on. At the summit, the outpost appears. What's left of it? It's been overrun. Charred beams. Collapsed walls. Half a banner still clinging to a burnt post. One man steps forward. They didn't run. You nod. It's obvious. The bodies confirm it. Some still in position. Some slumped against the wall. One clutching a broken spear like he could still use it. Jonas kneels beside a young soldier, barely older than a boy. His face is still, peaceful in the snow. There's a letter tucked in his vest. Jonas slides it out. Holds it, doesn't open it. We'll take it back, he says. You search the ruins. Not much left. A few dried rations. A rusted sword. A cracked mirror. A water flask still half full. You take what's useful. Say a few words. Words no one will hear. You light a fire in the pit. Let the smoke rise like a small prayer. Then you leave. The snow keeps falling. The descent is harder. The cold bites through your boots, your gloves, your patience. One of the men slips and twists his ankle. He hobbles behind the rest of you, refusing to be carried. You respect that. By the time you reach the lower camp again, night is coming. You report. The officer listens, nods, says noted. As if that will warm the dead, you give him the letter. He tucks it away unread. Jonas stares at him for a long time. Later, back by your fire, you pull out your own letters. You have 3 now. None delivered. You think about what you'd write tonight. Probably something about snow, about silence, about how your hands shake sometimes, even when there's no cold. Jonas sits beside you, feet outstretched, head tilted back. Do you think we'll forget all this? He asks. You think for a while? No, but others will. He nods. That's worse. You poke the fire. Sparks rise like tiny stars, each one vanishing before you can follow it. The camp is quiet again. You wrap yourself in your cloak and lie back on the frozen earth. The stars above are cruelly bright tonight. You close your eyes and dream of a letter arriving home, even if no hand remains to read it. You wake up to your own breath in the cold, rising in a soft white cloud above your face. The stars are still visible, which means it's too early, too dark, and far too cold to be awake. But someone's shouting. That always does it. You sit up, joints aching like old hinges. Jonas is already pulling on his boots, his face pale in the starlight, eyes puffy with sleep. No words are exchanged. You both know the drill. Something's wrong. You shuffle out of the tent to find the camp in motion. Not yet, but tense, like a bowstring drawn tight. Men are being roused, orders whispered, weapons distributed. There's no firelight, just lanterns with their flames covered, casting long shadows that flicker and stretch like nervous fingers. Then you hear it. Hooves. Not many. A scout or a messenger galloping hard. A rider arrives, dismounts, and disappears into the command tent. You stand there watching and waiting. A few minutes later, the officer emerges. All units prepare to mobilize. He says, enemy movement confirmed. North slope. You feel it in your stomach. That slow tightening. That bracing. Not fear. Exactly. Just that bone-deep awareness that you may be spending your last morning watching mist rise over frozen grass. You and Jonas suit up. Armor. Cloak. Belt. The sword feels heavier than usual. Not in weight, in memory. As you prepare, a young man, new, too clean, hands out small strips of cloth. Signal bands, he says, to show you're friendly. You take one and tie it around your arm. As if that ever stopped a blade. You're marched out before the sun breaks fully over the hills. Your unit is placed near the left flank, along a ridge that overlooks a field of broken trees and rocks. Ideal for ambushes, and traps, and death. You crouch behind a log, shield close, sword ready. Jonas is beside you, breathing slow, focused. The world is still for a long time. Then you hear them. Not shouts, not drums. The rhythm of boots. The enemy emerges from the tree line like smoke. Quiet at first, then growing. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Too many. Your captain gives the signal. Hold position. You do. They come closer. You grip your shield. Then someone fires early. An arrow sails. And suddenly the world explodes into movement. The enemy surges forward. You brace. You meet them. It's a mess. You're not sure what happens first. You see a man swing an axe, then vanish beneath a shield wall. Someone screams. Arrows hiss past your ears. You duck, block, strike. Over and over. Your arm is numb. Blood splashes your boot. You trip over a body. Yours. Theirs. Doesn't matter. You swing upward blindly and feel your blade catch something. A helmet. A neck. You don't look. You just move. Jonas is still with you. You think. You hope. Then a horn sounds, one of yours. A signal. Retreat. You hesitate. Then fall back. Not running. Just moving. Shield up. Blade low. Eye scanning. You make it back to the ridge. Form a new line. They don't follow. They regroup. So do you. The field between you is now a carpet of bodies, weapons, and motionless cloth. You breathe. You shake. You are, miraculously, still alive. Jonas joins you, helmet cracked. Blood on his cheek. You good? He asks. You nod. I think I broke my toe. He adds. You both laugh. It sounds like gravel rolling in your lungs. Later, after the fighting, you help collect the wounded. You carry one man who's missing a hand. He hums the same note the whole way back to the tent. Over and over. Another man is missing his eye. He tries to tell a joke, fails, still smiles. The dead are arranged in rows. Again, always. You count them, not by names, just faces and empty spaces. That night, no one eats much. Even the stew goes untouched. You and Jonas sit beside the fire, watching it die. Why are we still here? He asks again. You don't answer. You can't. You wake later that night to shouting. Someone's missing. Not from your unit. Another. A man who was just talking hours ago. You join the search. You find him at the edge of the woods. Alive? Curled up under a bush, muttering something about ghosts and footsteps. You lead him back. The medic gives him something to chew. Maybe it'll help. You lie down again. You try to sleep. You can't. You stare at the stars. They blink at you, like they're keeping score. The camp wakes to frost. White creeps up the edges of tents, and gear, like nature itself, is trying to preserve you all. Poorly frozen statues in an unwinnable story. Your breath fogs instantly. You roll out of your blanket like a man peeling off wet parchment, and immediately regret it. Every inch of your skin protests. You rub your hands together. The motion feels like grinding gravel. Nearby, someone curses at a frozen strap. Someone else bangs their boots together, trying to knock them back into the shape of footwear. You feel like you're watching men thaw out into misery. Jonas sits nearby, cupping his hands around a lukewarm tin of something trying to pass as tea. His nose is red, eyes watery. If I die today, he says, make sure no one draws me with my mouth open. You nod solemnly. You'll be remembered as dignified. He sips, with both eyes, if possible. Breakfast is a small, miraculously hard bread warmed over fire, and a lump of something that used to be cheese. You chew slowly. It squeaks between your teeth. The officers make rounds, murmuring with furrowed brows. One carries a map. He gestures a lot. You've seen that face before. He's hoping the map will offer a better reality than the one under his boots. Today's news spreads quickly. Reinforcements aren't coming. No one is surprised. But something in the air shifts. The silence thickens. Hope, like most things out here, has been worn thin. And now it's gone threadbare. You're assigned to the picket lines, standing watch just outside the main camp. Alone mostly. You're given a whistle, as if that will do anything when trouble arrives. Your post is a stump, a stone wall, and a wind that stings your ears like angry bees. You wrap your cloak tighter. The forest is still. Too still. Even the birds have given up today. You see movement. Not a person, just branches. But your muscles tense anyway. You hold your breath and listen. Nothing. You exhale slowly. The fog from your breath floats in front of your face, briefly hiding the world. You stay like that for hours. Time becomes strange. You invent stories for trees. That one is bent because it saw too much. That one leans because it's tired. That one's bare because it forgot how to hope. Eventually, your watch ends. You shuffle back to camp. Jonas is tending to his boots again, scraping something off the sole with a stick. "I think I stepped on a confession," he mutters. Smells guilty. You crack a smile. That night, you help dig another trench. The work is slow. The ground hard. The shovel has lost its edge, much like you. Your hands are blistered under the gloves. The blisters have their own blisters. You keep digging. Someone nearby hums a lullaby. Another man coughs for so long he has to sit. You keep digging. You reach a tree root, thick and gnarled. You try to cut through it with your spade. It resists. For a moment, you envy its stubbornness. When the trench is finished, you line it with stones. Not for strength, for order, for something that feels deliberate. Dinner is thin soup and air. You get more of the air. The fire burns lower than usual. Wood scarce. Warmth scarcer. You sit close to Jonas and watch the flames lick the dark. He says nothing for a long while. Then, "I can't remember her face." You turn. He doesn't need to say who. It's like it's behind a curtain. I know it's there, but I can't pull it open. You stare into the fire. Sometimes I think I remember my father's voice, but I'm not sure if it's his or just how I wanted him to sound. Jonas nods. Memory's lazy. Picks what it likes. Silence stretches between you. Then someone across the fire begins telling a joke. It's not a good one. Something about a goat, a bishop, and a misread map. But people laugh anyway. Laughter, these days, is currency. You don't hoard it. You spend it before it spoils. Later, in your tent, you find a loose page in your pack. One of your letters, unsent. The edges are smudged, the ink blood from last week's rain. You can't read the bottom half. You consider rewriting it. You don't. You fold it back up and place it beneath your pack. Outside, the wind picks up. You hear it whistle through camp, an old song no one remembers. You lie back. Your body doesn't want to sleep, but your mind insists. You dream of a house with a warm hearth and a door that closes without a sound. You dream of boots that fit. You dream of waking somewhere else. You wake with the creeping sensation that your body is no longer yours. It moves, sure, but with the stiff grace of a borrowed wagon wheel, functional, but resentful. Your legs protest. Your back hums. Your neck, somehow, has developed a knot shaped like guilt. You don't speak. No one does. The air smells of ash and boiled cloth. You eat your bread without butter, your soup without flavor, your day without complaint. That's just how things go now. The officers announce a rotation. Half the company will remain in the rear camp to recover. The other half will rotate forward to the provisional line. The provisional line is officer, speak for, place where things get dangerous, but not quite poetic. You're chosen, of course. So is Jonas. Before leaving, you're given a new set of rations: hardtack, dried roots, a strip of something leathery that might have once been beef, or might be old belt. You pack it anyway. You're also issued replacement gear. Replacement, here meaning someone else's old armor that's slightly less damaged than your current one. Your new breastplate has initials carved on the inside: TV. You don't ask what happened to TV. You just nod and put it on. The march is slow. You follow a path worn by carts and feet, lined with skeletal trees and the occasional forgotten boot. The cold returns. Not sharp, just present, like a damp dog curling at your feet and refusing to leave. You pass a burned-out chapel. Stone walls cracked. Roof caved in. A wooden beam lies across the threshold, charred into black glass. Inside, a rusted censer swings slowly from a chain, moved by nothing you can see. Jonas says, "Still smells like prayer." You nod. At the forward camp, things are thinner. Fewer tents. Fewer men. More space between people. Less laughter. You pitch your shelter near a trench lined with spikes. The ground is soft, churned mud and ash. Your boots sink in. You don't bother pulling them out. They'll follow you or they won't. That night, you're on watch again. You stand at the edge of the trench, staring into woods that breathe like sleeping giants. You think you see movement. You raise your blade. Nothing. Just wind. You lower your arm. A voice behind you says, "They won't come tonight." You turn. An older man, wrapped in a cloak patched with 3 different colors of thread. His face is lined, jaw set, eyes distant. "They came last night," he adds. "They don't double up." You nod. "You always on watch?" He shrugs. "I don't sleep much." You stand beside him, 2 silhouettes in the cold. "I'm called Rask." He offers after a while. You tell him your name. He nods. "I'll remember it." You know he won't. Neither will history, but it's kind that he says it. Morning brings frost. Again. You pull your cloak tight and find Jonas making tea, if you can call it that. It's warm water with something that once thought about being mint. "Better than nothing," he says. You nod. You're starting to think that phrase could be your unit's motto. Better than nothing. Emblazoned on a cracked banner in peeling paint. You're given new duties. This time, you're to help repair the palisade wall. You're handed a hammer, some nails and a plank with a split in the middle. You look at the wall, you look at the plank. You hammer it in any way. Rask works nearby. His hands move with the slow precision of someone who no longer bothers with waste. You follow his lead. Quiet. Efficient. A rhythm forms. Tap, lift, shift, hammer. In the distance, a horn sounds. Not battle. Just signaling. An officer shouts something about scouting parties. Jonas disappears with one. You don't like it. Not because he's weak. Not because he's unlucky. Just because anyone who leaves the line lately tends not to come back with all the same parts. Hours pass. You wait. You pretend not to. You help fix a second wall. You carry firewood. You refill water skins. You clean a blade that isn't yours. Dusk comes, violet and quiet. Then you see them. Figures returning. 5 left. 2 return. Jonas is one of them. He's limping. You jog to meet him. He waves you off. Nothing broken. He sits, pulls off his boot. His ankle is bruised like spoiled fruit. But not twisted, just sore. They were waiting for us, he says softly. You nod. You build a fire that night. Small, just enough to heat your hands. Jonas is quiet. Rask joins you. He offers you a bit of something wrapped in cloth. Cheese, maybe. Hard as bone, but you eat it gratefully. This place feels like it's already forgotten us, Rask says. You say, maybe it never knew we were here. Jonas adds, doesn't matter, we know. The fire cracks. You stare into it and see 1,000 moments you'll never tell anyone. You lie down on your side. You close your eyes. And when the wind rises through the trees, it sounds just like your mother calling you in for supper. You don't answer. But you hear it anyway. You're pulled from sleep by silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the unnatural kind. The kind that makes every nerve sit up and listen. The wind has stopped. The trees have stopped. Even the fire's usual crackle seems to have gone mute. You sit up slowly, hand drifting to your blade. Jonas is already awake, squinting into the dark. Rask, too. He's kneeling near the edge of camp, one ear tilted toward the woods like he's listening for ghosts. They're out there, he says, not as a warning, but a statement of fact, like the moon is up, or my joints hurt when it rains. You rise quietly and check your gear. You do this automatically now, the same way people check their breath in the cold. You're not expecting to be ready. You just want to feel prepared. Then a horn sounds. Not yours. One low, long note that seems to curl around your bones. Jonas breathes out slowly. So much for rest. Camp stirs fast. Orders shouted. Weapons drawn. Tents abandoned. You fall into formation not because you're told to, but because you know. The attack doesn't come like a wave. It comes like a cough. One moment, the woods are just trees. The next, they're full of men. Quiet, fast, brutal. No battle cry. No warning. Just death sliding through the dark like it's got errands to run. Your line holds barely. You fight with that slow, grinding rhythm that only exhaustion can teach. Block. Swing. Step. Gasp. Again. Again. You don't think. You just are. Someone stumbles into you, enemy or ally, it doesn't matter. You shove them aside and keep going. A blade scrapes your helmet. You hear the metal sing. You turn and swing your own, feel it land. Not clean, but enough. You lose track of time, of names, of people. The enemy pulls back, then charges again. It's a pattern now. Push, retreat, push again. Like the tide, if the tide had teeth. At one point your leg gives out. You fall. You roll. You come up again. Jonas is still there, covered in mud, bleeding from his lip, still swinging. Rask isn't. You see him lying by the palisade, one hand curled around the haft of his spear, eyes open. His cloak flutters slightly. You keep fighting. Eventually, finally, the enemy falls back for good. They don't retreat so much as dissolve, fading into the trees like smoke. You stand there, heaving, sword low, arms trembling. Blood drips from somewhere. You can't tell if it's yours. The ground is littered with bodies, some moaning, some still, some making that quiet, empty sound that comes before dying. You help move the wounded. Jonas limps as he carries a man with no left hand. You grab the legs. Together, you lay him near the fire. The medic gives him something. Maybe it helps. You bury Rask. You don't dig deep. The ground is too hard. You use your shield as a shovel. Jonas helps. You say nothing. You place a stone over his chest. Not a cross, just wait. That night the fire is small. No one jokes. No one sings. You sit with your knees to your chest, cloak drawn tight, eyes half closed. Jonas says, "He wasn't afraid." You nod. "He knew." He adds, "Yeah, I don't want to know." You stare at the flames. The night is cold. The stars hide. You wake at dawn with snow on your blanket. The camp is white. Beautiful, in that cruel way winter has. Like a funeral with perfect flowers, you stretch. Your back is sore. Your boots frozen again. Someone brings food. Porridge. Grey and bland. You eat it all. Later, you're sent to patrol the perimeter. You walk slowly, scanning the trees for movement. There's none. You see a bird. A real one. Small brown. It tilts its head at you. You raise your hand slowly. It flies away. You breathe. You make it back to camp. Jonas is carving something. You look closer. A small figure. Wood. A face with no eyes. Just a hood. You don't ask who it is. He doesn't offer. He places it in the dirt beside a stone. That night, he tells you, "I think I dreamed of snow before it came." You smile. "You should have warned me. Wouldn't have changed anything." He's right. You fall asleep under the stars. Not because you're comfortable, but because, somehow, you're still here. You wake with the sun on your face. It takes you a moment to realize what's different. The light is warm. Not golden exactly, but gentler. The kind that filters through the edges of sleep like a polite guest. You blink slowly, squinting at the sky. It's blue, not completely, but enough to feel foreign. Strange, even. It's been grey for so long, you forgot the sky had any other moods. You sit up. The camp is quiet, but not dead. Just resting. Some men stir around fires, cooking thin porridge and watching it boil, like it might reveal their fortunes. Others sit cleaning blades, sharpening the same edges they've sharpened 100 times before. There's no immediate threat, no alarm, no horns. That in itself feels suspicious. Jonas sits nearby, cloak wrapped around his shoulders, his boots half off, one foot resting on the other. He glances over at you. Still alive. You nod. Disappointing, huh? He grins faintly. Speak for yourself. You stretch slowly, the kind of stretch that your body tries to veto halfway through. Every tendon whines. Every joint mumbles complaints. You finish it anyway. You're still here. That morning, for the first time in weeks, there's mail. The courier arrives just after the sun has cleared the treetops. He's a wary man with a scroll case slung across his chest and a coat that probably started out red. He reads names aloud, one by one. Most are met with silence. The intended recipients are already lying under rocks or blankets of earth. Then, Jonas. He looks up, blinking. The courier hands him a small, folded page sealed in wax. The wax is cracked. The edges are smudged, but it's a letter. He doesn't open it right away, just holds it in both hands like it might dissolve. You pretend not to watch. Later, you're sent on patrol. No fighting, just walking the perimeter, counting trees, looking for signs. A fox scampers by. You see a deer track in the mud, a feather, a boot print going the wrong way. You file it all away. Pass it to the officer. He nods. You return to your tent. Jonas is sitting there. He's opened the letter. He doesn't speak. You sit next to him. Eventually he says, "It's from my brother. He's joined the Southern lines. Said they think the war might be ending." You glance at him. They always say that. He nods. I know. But he said something else too. You wait. He hands you the letter. Near the bottom, scrawled in uneven handwriting, "When you come back, Ma says she's keeping the bread oven warm." You hand it back. No words. Just a quiet nod. That afternoon, it rains again. Only lightly, like the sky is just weeping from habit. You spend the day cleaning weapons, mending the strap on your pack, tightening the seams on your cloak. Small things. Peaceful, almost. It feels like preparing for something that isn't disaster. Later, a rumor spreads. Peace talks. Not official. Not real. Just whispers. Like smoke before fire. No one believes it. Not really. But that night, the fire feels warmer. Jonas pulls out the little carved figure he made. The one without eyes. He places it near his pack. "She's watching," he says. Softly you nod. You don't ask who. You don't need to. Sleep comes easily. No fear. No tension. Just the slow sigh of a body too tired to keep remembering. You dream of home. Not vividly. Just fragments. A loaf on the table. A door swinging open. Someone humming in the next room. When you wake, the world is grey again. But the sky is higher. The air less heavy. The captain assembles the unit. His speech is short. No movement overnight. The scouts saw smoke to the east, but no banners. Someone asks, "Are we moving?" He shakes his head. "Not yet." You look around. More faces than before. Fewer missing. No new graves today. Jonas looks at you and says, "What would you do if it ended?" The question feels too big for morning. You shrug. Sleep. Then eat. Then, I don't know. Walk barefoot in a clean river. He smiles. "I'd ask Ma for 2 loaves. One for me, one for nobody." "Why nobody?" He shrugs. "Somebody's always forgotten." You sit in silence for a long time. Eventually, someone starts baking flatbread on a pan over the fire. The smell spreads. You close your eyes and let it fill your chest. For a moment, you imagine you're home. It begins with a whisper. Not a shout, not a horn, not the thunder of hooves or the clatter of spears. Just a whisper, passed from tent to tent, man to man. They say it's over. At first, no one believes it, or they pretend not to. You keep sharpening your blade because it's easier than hoping. You adjust your shield straps. Fix the tear in your cloak. Double check the laces on your boots. Just in case it's a lie. You've heard it all before. But the officers walk differently that morning. They're slower. Softer. They meet your eyes without barking orders. They let the cook serve real rations. Salted pork, not the leather that usually passes for it. You sit cross-legged in the mud and chew slowly. It tastes like a memory. Then, around midday, confirmation arrives. A rider comes down from the northern pass, a sealed letter in hand. He dismounts, delivers it, and vanishes before anyone can question him. The captain gathers everyone around the central fire. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't dramatize. He just says, "There's a truce." No celebration. Not at first. No one claps or shouts or drops their weapons. You just sit. Breathe. Glance at each other as if waiting for the real punchline. Because this is the part where someone usually dies. The captain continues. Orders are to hold position. Prepare for withdrawal within the week. A week. After all this, you watch Jonas as he stares into the fire. His expression doesn't change. He just blinks slowly once and says, "So that's it." You don't answer. You don't know how. You spend the afternoon not marching, not digging, just waiting. It's surreal, like someone pressed pause on the world and forgot to say why. Some men clean their gear anyway. Some pack and then unpack, then repack again. One carves a pipe and smokes something that might be grass. Another writes a letter, sealing it twice. You walk the perimeter out of habit. You see the trench where you spent a cold night listening to your breath. You see the post where Rask stood and didn't come back. You see trees where arrows flew, and the field where you held the line and watched friends fall like autumn leaves. You walk all of it. Then you return to camp. Jonas is sitting on a box, sharpening a stick with his pocket blade. "What do we do now?" he asks. "Wait," you say. "And after?" You don't know. The next few days blur. Gear is inventoried. Rations are packed. Horses are reclaimed. The sick and wounded are prioritized for transport. A few refuse to leave their stretchers. They'd rather stay horizontal forever. Some men desert. Not to run from war, but from peace. They don't remember how to live without fear. Without orders. Without the sound of steel. You and Jonah stay. On the fourth day, you're told it's time. You shoulder your pack. You leave the forward camp for the last time, walking past the charred palisades, the shallow graves, the fire pit where stories once lived. You don't look back, not because you're stoic, but because the memories follow without asking. You walk through fields beginning to green again, through trees reclaiming their leaves, past places where you blood, but now see blooming weeds. Your column is quieter now, not because of death, but because of thought, of processing, of wondering. You hear someone laugh, loud, real, and the sound startles you. Jonah says, "That's the first one." You nod. "Probably won't be the last." You sleep in a barn that night. Straw, warm walls, a roof. You forget what that feels like. In the morning, you wake to bird song. Actual birds, singing, not being eaten, not silent. You eat bread that isn't hard enough to wound you. You drink clean water from a bucket, and some of it stays in your beard. You both laugh. You walk again, and then one evening you see it, a village, a real one, with chimneys and children and chickens, and people who aren't afraid when they see you coming. You're waved inside. You're fed. You sleep in a real bed. Jonah snores through the second half of the night. You don't even mind. In the morning, someone offers you a bar of soap. You stare at it like it's treasure. You bathe. You scrub your arms until the scars shine. And then you find a quiet spot under a tree, sit down with your knees up, and look at the sky. Jonah sits beside you. No one speaks. There's nothing left to say. And that's when it hits you. You came back. Not all of you, but enough. So now you lie down in the quiet of your own room. Warm blanket over your chest. Pillow soft beneath your head. The world outside might be noisy. Cars passing. Wind brushing the window pane. But inside you're still. And perhaps, just maybe, a little more thankful. Because you're not sleeping in mud tonight. You're not counting arrows in the dark, or chewing bread with your molars clenched, or standing alone on watch, waiting for trees to move. You're not shivering in the cold beneath wet wool. You're here. And when you breathe in, it's clean. When you close your eyes, no one is yelling. No boots are pounding. No horns are calling you into a charge. Just quiet. Just peace. You've walked through mud, fear, frost, and fire tonight. You've stood where history rarely pauses. And you did it without glory, without reward, without even a name carved into stone. But you were there. You endured. You mattered. And now, at last, your body can rest. No armor. No weight. No orders, just the rhythm of your breath, the steady beat of a heart that made it home, the kind of silence that's earned, not given. So let your thoughts slow down, let your muscles ease, You're safe here. The war is over. The past is folded behind you. You're whole enough, and in this stillness, gentle, deep, and real, you are finally allowed to sleep.